America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
and by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.
Hi there, I'm Rob Stewart. A lot of people enjoy a glass of wine with lunch or dinner from grapes just like these. Coming up, we'll take you to California to meet a group of African-American vintners toasting a new awareness of wine.
I'm John Lobertini. You know, most agricultural products make it from farms to your home in just one season. But coming up, we're going to take you to Maine, where timber growers have a long-term investment harvesting hardwoods.
I'm Yolanda Vazquez. We're heading for Delaware, where consumer demand for farm fresh fruit has sparked a new lifestyle for one family whose history on the land dates back 150 years. It's all coming up on America's Heartland.
Have a great day.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand. In America's heartland, living close to the land.
You may have seen stories in the news about the welfare of food production animals. Well, one university here in Ohio has launched new research and training programs that foster changes in human-animal interaction.
Dr. Naomi Butheris is not intentionally trying to scare these young turkeys. Rather, the Ohio State University researcher is videotaping the human-poultry interaction to see if the animals are frightened by her movements.
By moving through the barns, standing stationary and walking slowly, we're able to record the number of animals that are staying close to the person, and that gives us a measure of how fearful of humans those turkeys actually are.
Dr. Butheris is an animal welfare extension specialist at Ohio State. It's a title that she says sometimes makes livestock producers a bit unsure.
Some producers understandably can be hesitant about working with someone who has welfare in their job title because they may see me as someone who is not going to be working in their best interests and doesn't have their best interests at heart.
Dr. Butheris says the current, sometimes confrontational dialogue on animal welfare has resulted in part from urbanization.
It's the move away from living on the farm and towards people living in the cities. And so people have lost touch with agriculture and lost touch with the way that we produce our food.
And while most people continue to consume animal food products, consumers want to be reassured that farm animals are humanely treated. That, she says, benefits consumers and producers.
Firstly, animals that have good welfare usually have good productivity, so it's in the producer's best interests to have animals that have good welfare.
A number of farm organizations and universities, including Ohio State, address animal welfare in classwork and seminars with livestock producers. The research here has focused not only on poultry, but hogs and cattle as well. One research project looked at the possible benefit to cows from a change in the flooring in dairy barns.
A softer, less slippery flooring surface, a rubber flooring surface, and how that affects the behaviour of the cows and also their milk production.
And while that project considered dairy cattle comfort,
in fact, we found no differences in the behaviour or the milk production of the cows on the concrete or the rubber flooring surfaces.
Projects like this continue to explore how farmers and ranchers can address perceptions about animal welfare. Dr. Butheris says that herding techniques, which use slow movements and lower levels of vocal prodding, can significantly improve stress levels and how animals react.
We found very clear and consistent relationships between how the stock people or the animal caretakers interact with the animals and how that affects the behaviour of the animals and in turn affects the animals' productivity and welfare.
The ongoing dialogue on food production animals provides an opportunity for both consumers and livestock producers, establishing efficient animal procedures on farms and ranches while addressing consumer questions about humane treatment.
Because they're concerned about animals, including animals that are raised for food and fibre, and so they want to know that the animals are being taken care of and looked after.
Americans consume a lot of turkey, and not only during the holiday season. It's estimated that American farmers will raise 250 million birds this year. Minnesota leads the nation in turkey production, followed by North Carolina, Arkansas, and Virginia. And while we talk turkey, Abraham Lincoln established the first National Day of Thanksgiving in 1863.
Grape growing and winemaking have increased dramatically across the U.S. in recent years. And coast to coast, we've seen a wealth of new players jump on board and get involved in winemaking. That includes a group in California whose goal is to increase wine awareness and appreciation. The variety of wines available to consumers illustrates the diversity of an industry where Cabernet, Merlot, and Chardonnay are enjoyed along with Pinot Noir, Syrah, and Riesling, a veritable melting pot of varietals. And consider the diversity of the winemaking industry: French, Italian, Chilean, and Australian vintners. On the American vineyard scene,
this is about 3 years old.
winemaker Mac McDonald will tell you that African American vintners are not as well known.
I travel around the country. I've been to a lot of places, do a lot of wine dinners, do a lot of, charity events. And as I do these charities events, all of a sudden it dawned on me that there was no African Americans in my audience.
That I personally made.
Is that right?
Theodore Lee owns Theopolis Vineyards in Cloverdale, California, where she grows Petite Syrah grapes.
Everything. So I want you to try it because it is absolutely a kick.
Raised in rural Texas, she wasn't exposed to many wine drinkers till she joined a law firm that employed several vineyard owners.
It smells amazing.
Today, as an African-American woman successfully conducting wine business, Theo says her heritage presents a whole new point of view to the wine trade.
African Americans, they could get as much pleasure if they knew about the quality of wine. And that's what we're about, educating and making available to the public at large, but the African American community specifically.
And so as we were going through this thing...
Both Mac and Theo belong to the Association of African American Vintners, or AAAV.
The Association of African American Vintners, we started several years ago. It was founded around members who could come together, create an opportunity for us to talk, share resources, and we wanted to also provide an opportunity to educate the public. Primarily African Americans, but not only African Americans, about wine, the wine industry, and what the wine industry can do.
This celebration near Mac's Vineyard in Windsor, California, shares the lifestyle of wine with Vintner Club members, as well as friends in the wine community. For some, that lifestyle is learned. Others have a different appreciation. Mac's interest began as a 12-year-old boy on his family's Texas farm.
My father was a moonshine maker by the name of Sue, long before Johnny Cash had a song about a man named Sue. And there used to be a bunch of attorneys and doctors and guys that came out of Houston and Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas, that go hunting with my grandfather, because he had all these various types of dogs, and they would drink my father's moonshine. And one of those guys used to drink Burgundy. If you look at these grapes here, next year we'll have a lot.
Sampling that Burgundy began a lifelong interest in wine. Today, Mac and his wife, Lil, have realized their dream of owning their own winery, a venture into viticulture that puts Mac into a very small segment of the industry. African Americans own fewer than 5% of all of the wineries in the United States, a statistic the association wants to change.
So in the wine business, If you know how the game is played and you have some major players in the business that take the time with you to tell you the 1, 2, 3s about this business, then it can be good.
The fact that we're successful, the fact that we're out here, the fact that people know we're out here, that will increase opportunities and desires of other people to try it, to get in the business and see if they can do something with it.
Wine consumption in the United States has increased more than 25% in the past decade. One of the goals of the association is to direct more African American students into careers in viticulture. Mac says the organization offers scholarships and internships as a viable way of changing the face of the industry.
The idea is not to have it a black thing, but the idea is to get more African Americans to drink wine. Once you drink wine, honey, I don't care who wine you drink. As long as you're drinking wine, I'm a happy camper.
When you bring diversity to the table, what you do is get a different perspective. You get a different approach than what your traditional general population may do.
I like spicy. I'm a big fan of the spicy. But
Recent studies show that spending by diverse groups can have a significant impact on consumer segments of the economy. The association thinks that wine education, targeted marketing, and increased awareness can send more of those dollars to wine sales.
We're out here, we're making quality product. We don't make African American wine, we don't make black wine, we make quality product. The association is not just around African Americans. The majority wine industry, they love the fact that we're out here. Why? Because it brings wine consumers to them that they otherwise would not have gotten.
Diversity is the brightest new vintage of the wine industry's horizon, a fact that the AAAV toasts. And just as that taste of Burgundy began the path for Mac McDonald, his goal is to lay the groundwork for the next aspiring winemaker of color.
As for the future, I just hope that I can hang on long enough to see some African American, male or female, tap me on the shoulder and say, "Oh man, I can make better wine than you can."
Californians like their wine. Not only does the Golden State produce more than 80% of the wine made in America, Californians drink a lot of it as well, enjoying, on average, 1 of every 5 bottles consumed in the U.S. But what about those calories? Well, a 4-ounce glass contains about 80 to 100 calories. Here's the good news. Wine is fat-free and cholesterol-free.
I'm John Lobertini. Still ahead, we're going to take you to Maine, where timber growers are harvesting the raw materials for dozens of products all over your home.
I'm Yolanda Vazquez. Still ahead, farm fresh produce is one of the draws for consumers to farmers markets. And that's created a peachy opportunity for one Delaware farm family.
Nothing says Southern cooking quite like the sweet potato. Or is this a yam? Sweet potato and yam, those terms are actually interchanged quite a bit, but they really come from 2 different botanical families. Sweet potatoes come from the morning glory family, yams from the lily family. And 95% of the yams grown in the world are grown in Africa. So there's a good chance that potato on your plate is actually a sweet potato.
It should come as no surprise that this southern staple is grown largely in the southern states. North Carolina, Louisiana, and Mississippi produce most of the country's sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes can have skin colors of white, yellow, red, purple, or brown. And the color of the flesh inside can range from white to a vivid orange red. You'll find sweet potatoes in the produce section year-round, but the fresh season runs primarily from October through January, which makes it easy to understand why they're a holiday favorite. Want to be a sweet potato expert? Look for tubers with tight, smooth, unblemished skin. Store them in a dry, dark, and cool spot, not the refrigerator. Cold temperatures change the flavor and texture. And serve them up within a week for the best results. Or go for the canned or frozen variety, and even if you choose yams instead of sweet potatoes, chefs say the similar flavors will work in your favorite recipes.
Well, aside from being tasty, these tubers are really nutritional superfoods. Each one is packed with 5 times your daily dose of vitamin A. They got lots of vitamin C, potassium, beta-carotene, lots of things to keep you heart healthy.
I'd say that makes the sweet potato a pretty sweet deal.
You know, Maine is the most heavily forested state in the entire country. In fact, 90% of it is covered with trees. And most of Maine's timberland is privately owned, and that's giving growers a special opportunity. The views across Maine are stunning. Joe Pierce first learned that as a small boy.
My father was a wise old guy, and he wanted to make sure that his son loved the woods.
Pierce's father wanted him to take care of these family woodlands, keep them vibrant and alive. That demanded a plan to care not only for the trees, but water quality and wildlife habitat.
We're out here every 10 to 15 years working a different area of the woodlot, but cutting a little here, cutting a little there.
It's called sustainable forestry.
That tree will probably stay here the next time it's cut.
Rennie Noel is a timber guru of sorts. He guides Maine's foresters through the do's and don'ts of managing 40 commercial species. Timber in Maine varies from hardwoods used in furniture and cabinetry to logs that ultimately end up as paper products.
If we don't thin our forest, it becomes overstocked, and there's a lot of waste. A lot of wood falls to the ground, trees die, we get no use out of them.
Noel says that kind of timber program helps the forest to flourish.
It's like having a garden. You pull weeds. Out here in the woods there are weeds. There are trees that they're crooked, or they're diseased, or they're never going to grow because they're kind of suppressed in the shade.
Maine has 17 million acres of trees, a $7 billion a year industry in a place known as the Pine Tree State. Underperforming trees are milled for resale, but those left behind may be the most valuable.
This is what sustainable forestry is about. You cut in a place and we leave behind seed trees that produce seedlings. You know, there's Mama, right there.
This ground cover filters water you can hear but not easily see. The forest here is filled with small creeks and streams.
It's wildlife habitat, like this dead wood right here, for instance.
And it's home to the red-spotted salamander.
There's one right there. He's the bottom of the food chain. Everything from scarab beetles to black bear eats a little thing. You know, he's just a very important part of the forest.
But there's more than one way to keep a forest alive.
Helps teams of people, groups of people come together.
In addition to logging their land, Joe's son Dan has created a woodland leadership retreat, renewing people as well as the forest itself.
I think that's the value, is giving someone a space to think outside the box, get outside the box, and grow as an individual. Then they can bring it back to their workplace.
The Pierce family has been talking trees for more than 200 years.
A tree farm forester came and talked to my father about...
And they've shared what they know about sustainable forestry for the past 60. At 2 years old, grandson Noah can't talk yet, but as he showed us, the message is coming through loud and clear.
So we're paying attention to the environment, and that's because we want to, because we love this place.
Sure, lots of furniture and large items are made from the timber harvested in Maine, but did you know that a significant portion of the toothpicks made in America come from the Pine Tree State? The state lays claim to the country's first sawmill, opened near York, Maine in 1623. And when it comes to items on your dinner table, Maine leads the nation in the production of lobsters and blueberries.
Hi, I'm Paul Robbins, and here's something you may not have known about agriculture. No matter what you eat during the day, it's a good bet that wheat makes up part of the ingredients. Cereal in the morning, beverages during the day, hard rolls for dinner, wheat's in all of those. And if you go back in time, wheat played an important role in establishing civilized societies.
Turn back the calendar thousands of years, and the populations of Egypt and Mesopotamia grew so large they could no longer depend on gathering food. They had to grow it. And wheat was versatile. They could use it to make bread, use it for cereals, even feed their livestock. It spread east and west, and by 1500 BC, it was even being grown in China, where rice was the dominant grain. Once brought to the New World, wheat production flourished in the Great Plains, which is still the breadbasket of America. And speaking of which, a bushel of wheat can produce between 70 and 80 one-pound loaves of bread. Oh, and don't forget spaghetti. That's made from wheat as well.
Everybody has their favorite wheat product. Pizza for me, waffles, maybe graham crackers for you. Oh, and in case you wondered, the graham cracker is named for its inventor, Sylvester Graham, a 19th century American clergyman and nutrition advocate.
What's the old saying? Build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. Well, the same is true in agriculture, even when consumers are looking for produce that's fresh from the farm.
Bennett's peaches, the finest peaches in the state of Delaware.
Ralph Geigenast is particular about his peaches. So heading for the orchard on this midsummer morning.
I mean, look at that, there's 8 peaches in the bottom of that box, and the bottom is filled up.
Jane Layton and her husband echo that enthusiasm.
And they certainly are big this year. Goodness. Yes, much bigger than usual.
Peaches, along with grapes, oranges, apples, and strawberries, are one of the most popular produce items in America. So popular that in many parts of the country, consumers are willing to do the harvesting themselves. Which is why this is a very busy time of the year for orchards in the mid-Atlantic states, like the Bennett You Pick It Farm in Frankfort, Delaware.
Here you go. You can get a cart or a wagon right over here.
All right, Wayne, got a spot down here.
Jim Bennett's idea to connect consumers with hands-on agriculture began more than 20 years ago.
My goal is to try and grow a perfect peach in an imperfect world.
Some contend that Jim's being modest since he's traveled extensively researching plant varieties in his efforts to produce the perfect peach.
21, 16, 23, 28 now.
Jim says he sees a growing trend, consumers interacting with producers.
We have yellow peaches today called Loring peaches.
That connectivity gives farmers valuable feedback on their products and helps consumers to better understand agriculture.
So many areas have forgotten how to feed themselves, and that's what I think the trend towards small farms and people getting fresh food locally is all about, that there is a connection to the land.
But just look at the size of these things. If these aren't 3.5 inches in diameter, you know, oh, there, I dropped them, but I'll tell you what, I don't leave mine. The ones I drop, I take.
You want all the nectarines together or white ones together or what?
Jim's wife Carrie and their 2 sons work side by side in all aspects of the family orchard operation. These trees produce upwards of 200,000 pounds of fruit each year.
We've had great years, we've had disastrous years, but we've never lost the desire to keep going and the hope that someday there would be a legacy for our sons to inherit as well.
And legacy is the operative word here. This farm has been in the family since the 1860s. It's been honored as one of Delaware's historic homesteads. That makes Hale Bennett and his brother Henry 6th-generation farmers.
It's a nice thing to think about, and it's a great feeling to know that I'm continuing on such a long family legacy on our land here.
Hale and Henry already have plans for the future. Hale went to college to study horticulture. He says he's ready to use his knowledge of science and plants to perpetuate and improve the product.
Farming is a labor of love, and it's something that you have to love to be able to work that hard and to be able to spend so much time outside. And it's some days when it's 95 degrees out here, I wish I was in an air-conditioned office, but in reality, it's a great job, and it's hard to imagine myself doing anything else.
Do you like white peaches, yellow peaches, or nectarines? All picked fresh this morning.
Henry is pursuing a marketing degree at San Diego State University. He will promote the product.
Today in agriculture, it's just as much about selling your product as it is about growing it. You know, you could have the best product in the world, and if you can't get it out there, you're not going to be able to sell it.
Those cooperative family efforts are good news to Jim and Carrie, for whom the farm is a labor of love, as well as an ongoing agricultural concern.
We're fortunate to have 2 sons interested enough in the business to continue in it.
The boys say it's because they believe in the product.
When I see someone bite into a peach in the orchard like this, it makes it all worthwhile.
And that's something that seems to be working for the customers as well.
It only takes about 4 minutes to fill a box. Morning, how you doing?
And that's going to do it for us this time. Thanks for traveling the country with us on this edition of America's Heartland.
And remember, there's much more on America's Heartland on our website, including video of today's stories. Just log on to americasheartland.org. We'll see you next time.
To order a copy of this broadcast, visit us online or call 1-888-814-3923. The cost is $14.95 plus shipping.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
And by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.